The sky burned with fire as the colony shook under the weight of war. Explosions tore across the streets and thick smoke rose into the air. Captain Elias Ward stumbled through the ruins, his uniform torn, his rifle nearly out of charge. He had lost contact with his unit after the alien ambush. The human forces had been scattered, pushed back by the sudden assault of the Empire's warriors. Elias's lungs burned as he ran down a cracked alley. Every step echoed against broken stone. He stopped only for a moment to steady himself, pressing a hand against the side of a shattered wall. His arm throbbed with pain where shrapnel had cut deep, but he pushed forward. He had seen enough battle to know that hesitation meant death. The colony had been considered neutral ground, but neutrality meant little when two great powers clashed. Civilians had been caught in the chaos, and Elias could already hear the cries of the innocent caught between. He gritted his teeth. The mission had been simple, secure supply routes, but war had its own way of turning simple into impossible. Then he heard it. A thin voice. A whimper. Elias turned his head and froze. At the end of the ruined street, half buried beneath collapsed stone, was a group of small figures. Their large eyes shimmered with fear, their limbs fragile and trembling. Alien children. Their skin held soft shades of blue and silver, and their small hands reached weakly through the rubble. They were not human. They were the young of the very enemy that had thrown his unit into chaos. For a heartbeat, Elias stood still. The easy choice was to move on, to leave them. They were enemy-born. His orders had not said anything about saving them. In truth, most soldiers would not have thought twice. But Elias was not most soldiers. Another explosion shook the ground. Stone crumbled and more debris fell closer to the children. Their cries grew sharper. Instinct surged within Elias, stronger than orders, stronger than fear. He rushed forward. Dropping his rifle beside him, Elias pushed at the heavy slabs of rubble. His muscles screamed from strain, but he kept forcing Stone aside until there was just enough space for the children to crawl out. They clung to him, confused and scared, not understanding why a human soldier had come for them. "Go," Elias urged in a steady voice, motioning them to move to the corner. But before they could flee, the air filled with the thunder of enemy fire. Empire soldiers stormed into the street, their armor glinting, their weapons raised. They spotted Elias at once. A human among alien children. To them it looked like an execution waiting to happen. The children shrieked and pressed close to him. Elias knew he could not fight them all. His rifle was still on the ground, half buried in dust. The enemy raised their weapons. In that single breath of silence, Elias acted. He spread his arms wide and stepped in front of the children, placing his own body between them and the deadly line of fire. The first blast struck him in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body, but he did not fall. He staggered, gritting his teeth, keeping his arms outstretched as a shield. Another shot tore across his side. The children wailed behind him. His vision blurred, but his stance did not break. The enemy warriors hesitated. Confusion flickered in their sharp eyes. A human soldier was not supposed to do this. Humans were the enemy. Humans killed. Humans did not shield alien young with their own bodies. The image before them clashed with everything they believed. More warriors rushed forward, weapons still ready. Yet none fired again. They did not understand what they were seeing. Some shouted in their own tongue, debating whether it was a trick. But still Elias stood tall, blood running down his arm, his boots rooted in the cracked stone. The ground trembled as another force approached. Larger, heavier footsteps echoed through the air. The Empire's commander had arrived. Through the smoke appeared a towering figure in dark armor, her presence commanding silence even from her own soldiers. Her silver crest marked her as nobility, and the way her warriors bowed confirmed her rank. She was Lady Serenia, high matriarch of the noble house that ruled this sector. Her sharp gaze swept the scene, first to the children huddled in fear, then to the humans standing over them like a wall. Her expression froze. Those were her children. Her warriors lowered their heads, ashamed. They had failed to protect what mattered most. Yet here stood the enemy, bleeding and trembling, who had done what they had not. The children broke the silence. With weak sobs, they clung tighter to Elias's legs. Their small voices called for their mother, but they would not let go of the human who had saved them. Serenia's eyes narrowed as she stepped closer. She studied Elias, measuring him. This was no act of desperation. She could see it in the way he stood, his body shielding hers, his eyes sharp with determination even through pain. This was choice. Elias swayed, barely keeping his balance. Every wound screamed at him, every muscle begged to fall, yet he refused to move. His voice was rough when he finally spoke. "They're safe," he said simply. The alien matriarch stared at him for a long moment, her warriors waiting for her command. She could order his death here. One word and the human would be nothing but broken ash. But another thought burned within her. He had protected her bloodline. He had done what even her own soldiers had not managed in time. The battlefield seemed to pause, silent except for the distant rumble of war beyond the ruins. Serenia finally raised her hand, signaling her warriors to lower their weapons. The decision shocked them, but they obeyed. Elias's knees buckled. He collapsed forward, barely catching himself on one arm. The children cried out and rushed to hold him, their small hands pulling at him as if to keep him alive. Serenia's gaze softened for only a moment before her mask of command returned. "Take him," she ordered. Her warriors moved quickly, not to kill, but to lift the human soldier from the ground. He drifted in and out of consciousness, yet even then he tried to reach toward the children to make sure they were safe. Serenia stepped beside him, her eyes cold but unreadable. "You have bought your life this day, human," she said in a voice both sharp and low. "And more than that, you have bought my attention." The soldiers carried Elias through the broken streets, the children following close behind, still clutching at the edge of his uniform. The battle outside continued. But in that one ruined street something had changed. An enemy had bled for the young. A mother of power had witnessed it, and a story had begun that neither human nor alien could ignore. The human soldier woke to a strange quiet. The echoes of battle had faded into distant rumble. Pain ran through his body, but he was alive. He opened his eyes slowly and saw a large room filled with soft light. His uniform was torn, but he was no longer on the battlefield. Alien medics worked carefully around him, their hands precise and gentle despite the sharp claws on some. A soft voice called to him, but Elias did not understand the language. Yet the tone carried authority. Soon a tall figure entered. Her presence made the room colder in a commanding way, but there was a light that softened the edges. Lady Serenia, the mother of the children he had saved, stood before him. Her eyes were sharp and silver like polished steel, but they carried the weight of concern for her young. Her flowing armor and regalia marked her as one of the highest leaders of her people. Even standing silently, she radiated authority. "You live because of your choice," she said in a voice both calm and commanding. Her translator spoke his language clearly. "You chose to protect what should have been your enemies. This act has not gone unnoticed." Elias tried to speak, but his throat was dry and pain clouded his mind. The memory of the battlefield pressed in on him. He had shielded the children from the fire, taken blows meant for them, and carried them to safety. Now, seeing her in person, he realized how powerful the mother was. Serenia studied him closely. Her gaze moved over his wounds, his uniform, and the faint scars that hinted at years of battle. "Your kind is often reckless," she said. "But today you have shown honor. You have protected life that others would have destroyed without thought." Elias nodded weakly. "I did what I had to do," he said, his voice low and strained. "They are children. I could not leave them." Serenia's expression softened slightly. No one from her court had ever spoken like this to her before. Humans were enemies. Humans were dangerous. And yet this one had acted differently. He had risked his life for what mattered most to her. The alien children peeked around the corner of the doorway. Their small hands clutched at the edges of their clothing. They had been frightened of humans before, yet they had come to trust this one. He had shielded them, carried them, and refused to let them go even when danger loomed. They were drawn to him now, seeking safety and comfort. Serenia approached them, her eyes softening further as she looked at the small figures. She knelt slightly, and they ran into her arms. She gathered them close and then looked back at Elias. "You have touched my family, human. That makes you unique." Elias tried to sit up, but pain ran through his side. A medic moved quickly to support him. "Rest," they instructed, and he allowed himself to be guided back onto the soft bed. He had no choice but to recover before he could speak or move again. The alien mother sat in a high-backed chair, watching him closely. Her mind was already working. What did it mean that a human soldier had chosen to protect her children? How could one of her people trust an enemy? Yet a human had acted with courage and care beyond expectation. Her advisors had begun whispering outside the room. Some spoke of honor. Others spoke of danger. How could the human be allowed to live under her roof? Some argued that he was a threat, a spy, a trap. But the truth was clear to Serenia. He had saved her children's lives. He had risked everything for them. Finally, she spoke again. Your life is mine to command, human. You are no longer free to walk as you choose until I decide your fate. Elias's eyes widened slightly. His mind raced. He had fought battles, survived ambushes, and faced enemies countless times. But this was different. This was not about orders or strategy. This was about trust, honor, and unexpected respect from a mother whose children he had protected. I did not expect this, he admitted. I only did what was right, Serenia nodded. Right is often rare in war. You have shown what my warriors failed to do. You have earned my attention. That is enough for now. The children had now joined him in the room, shy but unafraid. They pressed against him, and he reached out carefully to touch their heads. Their small forms were delicate and frightened, yet alive because of his choices. Outside, the alien court whispered in excitement and fear. A human living under the protection of a high matriarch was unprecedented. Some feared it would weaken her authority. Others saw the potential for honor and alliance. Elias listened quietly. He did not know what his place would be in this alien world. He had acted instinctively to save lives, not to earn favor. Yet the consequences were now clear. He could not leave. Not yet. The day passed slowly. Alien medics cleaned his wounds and treated his injuries. They spoke in their language, and the translator allowed him to understand. The children stayed near him, watching, curious and protective. Their small hands would occasionally brush his arm as if to reassure themselves he was real. Serenia returned several times during the day. Each time she studied him closely. She asked questions about his choices, his training, and the reasons behind his actions. Elias answered honestly, knowing that any deception would be obvious to her sharp mind. Finally, she spoke in a tone that carried authority beyond all others. You will remain here. You will recover. After that, I will decide your role. For now, your presence is required by my household and my children. You will not be harmed, but you will not leave. This is not a request, Elias nodded. He had no strength to argue. His body ached, but his mind felt a strange clarity. He had saved lives. He had acted with courage. And now, unexpectedly, that courage had placed him in a position he could never have imagined. Night came to the colony, and the outside battle faded into quiet. The children slept nearby, finally calm in their safety. Elias lay on the bed, thinking about the events of the day. He had been trained for war, but this was different. Protecting those who were considered enemies was a test of character far beyond the battlefield. He understood, in that quiet moment, that the human ideals he carried with him were visible to beings who had never met one like him. Courage, loyalty, and compassion could cross worlds and species. Serenia watched him from a distance, silent but present. She did not sleep. She studied him, her mind turning over every detail. This human had changed the course of her day, perhaps the course of her household, perhaps even the empire. A single act of bravery had forced her to reconsider everything she believed about humans. Outside, the wind moved through the ruined city. Fires burned faintly in the distance. The Empire's soldiers continued to patrol, but their focus had shifted. Their commander had ordered them to allow this human to live. Some of them whispered in disbelief. Others looked at him with a new sense of respect. By morning, the children had learned to smile again. They laughed quietly as they played in the room, careful not to disturb the human who had saved them. Elias watched them, tired but content. He had acted without expectation, and yet the bond between them had already begun. Serenia entered again. She carried herself with all the elegance and authority of her rank, but there was a subtle warmth in her presence. She knelt slightly before the children, letting them run to her and hug her. Then her gaze returned to Elias. You are no ordinary soldier, she said. You are something more. My family owes you a debt that cannot be measured, but you must understand that your actions have consequences beyond yourself. The Empire will watch closely. My court will watch closely. Your survival is no longer yours alone. Elias understood. He had acted to protect life, and now his choices had placed him at the center of a web he could not yet see. Yet he did not fear. He had faced death before. He had fought for others. And now for the first time he realized that honor and courage could create unexpected alliances even in a world of war. The alien mother studied him one last time that morning. She was a force of nature, strong and uncompromising, yet even she could not ignore the truth. Elias had saved her children. He had shown bravery and care beyond expectation, and for that, she had decided to demand his presence. The story of a human soldier protecting the young of his enemies was just beginning, and the choices of one brave man would shape the events of many more days to come. By the second day, the human soldier had begun to move more freely. His wounds were still tender, but his strength was returning. He had been allowed to stand and walk within the safe quarters, accompanied by the children he had saved. They laughed quietly as they walked, still cautious but clearly attached to him. Elias found himself smiling for the first time in days, feeling a strange warmth in this alien place that had once seemed so hostile. Lady Serenia observed everything from a distance. She had spent hours considering the human, his choices, and the consequences of sparing him. Her mind had been a battlefield of its own, weighing honor against duty, trust against instinct. She had come to a decision, one that would shock her court and the human alike. When she finally entered the chamber, the air seemed to shift. Her soldiers straightened, knowing that her words would carry authority beyond question. Elias looked at her, wary but respectful. He had learned to read the expressions of alien leaders, subtle and sharp, and he could sense that today would be pivotal. "You have done more than I expected," Serenia said, her voice calm but firm. Her translator repeated her words clearly, and the children gathered behind Elias, sensing the importance of her presence. "You have protected my children from death. You have chosen to place yourself between them and danger. That act cannot be ignored." Elias nodded quietly. "I did what I had to do. No one should be hurt, especially not children." Serenia's eyes studied him carefully. "You have shown courage beyond your people's usual ways. You have risked your life for those who are not your own. Such actions demand recognition. Therefore, I declare that this human belongs to me." The words hit Elias like a sudden gust of wind. He blinked, uncertain if he had heard correctly. "Belongs to her?" He struggled to understand the meaning behind her statement. In human terms, such words could imply ownership, yet her tone was neither cruel nor possessive. It carried respect, acknowledgement, and a demand for his presence. Her soldiers stiffened. Some exchanged nervous glances. No one in their history had ever witnessed a human being claimed in this way by a member of the nobility. To them, humans were enemies, not participants in court politics. And yet here was Elias, a single soldier whose actions had defied expectations. "Your presence will remain under my protection," Serenia continued. "You will not be harmed. You will not leave my household unless I allow it. You have earned this, but you must understand the consequences of this choice." Elias swallowed hard. He had survived battles, ambushes, and near-death situations, but this was a challenge of a different kind. This was not about survival alone. It was about trust, perception, and navigating a world that had rules he had never learned. I do not understand," he said slowly. "Why me? Why would you make this choice?" Serenia's eyes softened just slightly. "Because courage and compassion are rare. Because you have shown what my soldiers failed to do. Because my children call for you, and I cannot ignore what they need. You are more than a human soldier. You are a symbol of honor." The alien children stepped forward, clinging to his legs. Their small voices murmured words Elias could not understand, yet their meaning was clear. They trusted him. They wanted him to stay. They knew he had saved them, and they refused to let him leave. Elias looked at Serenia, then at the children, and then back to her. He realized that escape was not possible. Even if he wanted to return to human lines, she would not allow it. Her will was absolute, and yet despite the restraint, there was no malice in her eyes. She respected him, and in that respect lay the weight of her command. Outside the chamber, whispers had begun. Advisors, courtiers, and soldiers debated fiercely. Some argued that keeping a human under protection would weaken their standing. Others argued that the act of bravery had shown a human could possess honor, courage, and loyalty beyond expectation. Inside, the tension was quieter, but no less sharp. Elias understood that his every word, every gesture, and every action would now be watched. He could not act without consideration, yet he had little choice in what was demanded of him. Serenia stepped closer. "You will recover fully," she said. "After that, you will take your place here as protector and companion to my family. You will serve under my guidance. Refusal is not an option. This is not punishment. It is recognition. Elias felt a mix of fear, confusion, and curiosity. He had never served under anyone in this way. Even in the military, his choices had been his own, guided by orders but also by instinct. Now he would serve a woman whose people he had once fought against. And yet the thought of leaving the children he had saved made his decision simple in a way. He would stay. He would honor the trust they had placed in him. "My loyalty is not given lightly," he said quietly. "I will not betray those who rely on me." Serenia inclined her head. "Then we understand each other. You will learn the ways of my household, the protocols of my people, and the expectations that come with your presence. But know this, danger still surrounds us. My enemies do not forget, and some will challenge your position." The words were a warning. Elias had faced danger before, yet nothing had prepared him for the political tension of a court filled with suspicion and ambition. Here, every action could be interpreted in multiple ways. Every gesture could signal loyalty or treachery, and yet, he felt a strange sense of purpose. For the first time, Elias realized that his choices had consequences far beyond the battlefield. A single act of courage had not only saved lives but also challenged long-held beliefs. He had shown that humans could act with honor even toward those considered enemies, and in doing so, he had placed himself in a new world of responsibility and expectation. The children played quietly nearby, their trust in him a small but constant reminder of why he had acted as he did. They had seen him as a protector, a shield, a source of safety. That trust could not be broken, not by fear, not by orders, and not by the unknown dangers that still lurked outside the walls. Serenia watched them all. She had seen many warriors, many humans, and many soldiers who had fought bravely, yet none had carried the weight of responsibility for another's life in the way Elias had. He had risked his own body to protect those who could not defend themselves. That choice, simple and instinctive, had changed everything. Her advisors continued to argue outside, but she paid little attention. Elias's presence was a challenge to the old ways, but also a symbol of something new. In a world of rigid rules and endless conflict, courage and honor had a voice that could not be ignored. By the end of the day, Elias had begun to understand his new reality. He would remain under Serenia's protection. He would serve in her household. He would navigate the complex and unfamiliar customs of a people who had once been his enemies. And above all, he would continue to protect those who could not protect themselves, just as he had done on the battlefield. As night fell, the children slept peacefully, their small forms nestled close together. Elias sat nearby, careful not to disturb them. The room was quiet, filled only with the soft sounds of breathing and distant wind through broken windows. He thought of the battlefield, of the fire and smoke, and of the moment when he had chosen to stand between death and the children. That decision had led him here. It had placed him in a position of trust and expectation, a role that was both frightening and full of potential. Serenia observed from her seat across the room. She did not speak, but her eyes never left him. In silence, she acknowledged the courage that had earned her respect, and the loyalty that had bound him to her family. A bond had formed, invisible but unbreakable, built on trust, bravery, and the protection of the young. Outside, the Empire continued to watch. Soldiers and advisors debated, but the truth was clear. Elias had proven something rare, that humans could act with courage, honor, and compassion beyond expectation. And that proof had placed him at the center of a new reality, one where loyalty, bravery, and trust could bridge even the deepest divides. The night passed, and the first light of morning spilled into the chamber. Elias felt the weight of his new role settle on his shoulders. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a protector, a symbol, and a part of a family that had once been considered his enemies. And as he looked at the children sleeping peacefully, he knew that he would never regret the choice that had brought him here. The morning light filtered through the tall windows of Lady Serenia's estate. Elias had begun to recover, his wounds healing more quickly than expected. The alien children ran through the halls, their laughter echoing off the high walls. They greeted him with small smiles and shy waves as he walked past. Elias had learned that life in this household was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Rules and customs filled every corner, every gesture, every conversation. Soldiers bowed, servants moved silently, and every action seemed to carry meaning beyond the obvious. He had been given a guide, an older alien named Talon, who patiently explained the expectations and traditions of the household. "You must understand," Talon said one morning as they walked through the training courtyard. "Every action here sends a message. Your presence is unusual. Some see it as honor. Others see it as weakness. You must be aware of both." Elias nodded, listening carefully. He had faced enemy fire, survived ambushes, and fought in countless battles, but this was different. Here, every step, every word, every glance could shift alliances and spark conflict. The children stayed close as he trained. Their large, curious eyes followed him as he practiced movements designed to strengthen his body and prepare him for tasks beyond ordinary human ability. Despite the strict rules, Elias found joy in their presence. They reminded him why he had risked his life. They reminded him that courage could build trust even across species. One afternoon, Lady Serenia entered the courtyard. Her silver armor gleamed in the sun, her presence commanding every gaze. Elias stopped mid-step and bowed, not out of fear but out of respect for a leader who had shown wisdom and fairness. "You have improved since yesterday," she said. "You adapt quickly. That is good. But you must also learn to understand our ways beyond physical skill. Protocol, loyalty, and observation are equally important." Elias listened carefully. He understood that physical strength alone would not earn trust in this world. Strategy, insight, and awareness of subtle politics were crucial. Even in his human army, he had relied on instinct and judgment, but here instincts had to be measured against a complex web of tradition. As days passed, he began to understand the children better. They were intelligent, inquisitive, and brave in their own way. One of them, a small girl named Lyra, approached him with a question about the battlefield. "Why did you protect us when others would not?" she asked, her voice curious but firm. Elias paused. It was a simple question, yet it carried weight. "Because it was the right thing to do," he replied simply. "No one should be hurt if it can be prevented. That is why I acted." Lyra tilted her head. "Humans are strange," she said. "You do not fight for power, you fight for what is right." Elias smiled. "Not all humans are the same. Some fight for themselves, some fight for others. I fight for those who cannot protect themselves." The girl nodded, satisfied. The bond between Elias and the children grew stronger with each passing day. They trusted him and he trusted them in return. However, not all attention was friendly. Outside the household, whispers grew among the Empire's court. Advisors debated fiercely about the human soldier who lived under Serenia's protection. Some argued that it was a dangerous precedent. How could a human, once an enemy, now hold influence in the household of a noble? Others believed that his bravery and honor deserved recognition, and that his presence might be a bridge to greater understanding. Elias began to sense the tension during gatherings. Some courtiers greeted him politely but kept their distance. Others watched him closely as if testing whether he was a threat or a spy. Every movement mattered. Every glance mattered. He had survived countless battles, but navigating this new kind of challenge required patience and observation. One evening, Lady Serenia summoned him to her private chambers. The room was elegant and filled with soft light. She gestured for him to sit. Elias complied, careful to show respect without appearing fearful. "You have learned quickly," she said, "but there is more than training and protocol. You must also understand the threats that lie around us. My household is not safe from those who envy my power or resent my decisions. You are now part of this, whether you wish it or not." Elias nodded. "I understand. I will do what I must to protect you and the children." Serenia studied him for a long moment. "You are human. You think differently. That is both a strength and a weakness. Some will underestimate you because of it. Others will fear you for it. You must be ready for both. Loyalty and courage will be your allies. Observation will be your weapon." Over the next days, Elias faced small challenges designed to test his understanding of the household and its politics. He observed interactions between servants and soldiers, noting subtle cues in tone and gesture. He learned to anticipate the intentions behind polite words and to see through flattery and hidden criticism. Despite these challenges, Elias also began to earn respect. Warriors who had once regarded him with suspicion now nodded in acknowledgement. They had seen his bravery on the battlefield. They had seen him risk his life for the children. And slowly, they began to accept that his presence was not a threat, but a demonstration of loyalty and courage. Yet, danger remained. Messages from distant parts of the empire hinted at plots and schemes. Rivals within the court saw him as a symbol of Serenya's favor, and some sought to exploit or challenge him. Elias understood that he could not rely solely on strength. He had to navigate alliances carefully, understanding motives and intentions beyond the obvious. One evening, as the children slept, Elias stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Fires burned faintly in the distance, remnants of battles long past. He reflected on how a single act of bravery had placed him in a position of trust, responsibility, and tension. He had shielded alien children on the battlefield, and now he had become a central figure in a household filled with power, ambition, and caution. Lady Serenia joined him on the balcony. She did not speak immediately. Her eyes scanned the horizon, then turned to him. "You have done well," she said finally. "But remember, courage alone is not enough. Wisdom, patience, and understanding are just as important. There are those who will test you. There are those who will seek to harm my family because of you. You must be ready." Elias nodded. "I will be ready. I will protect them no matter the cost." A small smile crossed Serenya's face, though it was fleeting. "That is why you are here. That is why I demanded your presence. You are more than a soldier. You are a protector, and in doing so, you have shown what humans are capable of." The night passed quietly. Elias returned to his quarters, thinking about his new role. He had come from a world of clear rules and direct combat. Here, he was part of a complex system where trust, honor, courage, and politics intertwined. Every choice he made would ripple through the household, through the empire, and perhaps beyond. The children greeted him the next morning with bright smiles. Their trust was a constant reminder of why he had acted. He had saved them, and now he would continue to protect them, navigating a world that was still foreign and filled with hidden dangers. Elias realized that his journey was far from over. He had crossed the threshold from soldier to protector. He had earned respect, but he also carried responsibility. And as the sun rose over the alien city, he understood that his courage would be tested in ways he had never imagined. But he was ready. He would face every challenge, protect those who depended on him, and navigate the complex world of alien politics with the same determination that had driven him to shield the children on the battlefield. His actions had changed the course of events, and he now stood between worlds, trusted by some, watched by others, and ready to prove that humans could be more than enemies. The morning air was tense. Word had reached Lady Serenia that rival factions within the empire were planning an attack on her household. They envied her power, questioned her decisions, and saw the human soldier living under her protection as a weakness to exploit. The children had been warned to remain indoors, and guards patrolled the halls more frequently. Elias stood at the edge of the training yard, observing the soldiers and their formations. He had grown accustomed to the routines of this alien household, but he knew danger could strike at any moment. His instincts, honed over years of battle, told him that preparation was key. He could not allow anyone to harm the children or Serenia. Serenia approached him, her expression grave. "The threat is closer than we expected," she said. "Some seek to test the loyalty of my household and, by extension, your own courage. You must be ready to act immediately if danger appears." Elias nodded. "I understand. I will protect the children and you." The day passed slowly, filled with drills, observation, and careful preparation. The children remained close, sensing his presence and feeling safe in his vigilance. Even small gestures of reassurance, a hand on a shoulder or a quiet smile, were enough to calm them. As dusk fell, a sudden alarm echoed through the estate. The gates had been breached. Shadows moved quickly across the walls. Rival warriors, masked and armed, were attempting to infiltrate the household. Chaos threatened to overtake the calm that had settled over the family for days. Elias sprang into action. He called out to the children, urging them to follow the safe path that had been prepared in advance. He positioned himself between them and the intruders, his body tense and ready. He had faced impossible odds before, but protecting the children in the halls of Serenia's household carried a weight far greater than any battlefield. The attackers moved swiftly, but Elias anticipated their steps. Using his knowledge of strategy and combat, he intercepted the first wave, striking quickly and decisively. His movements were precise, combining strength with observation and speed. He blocked strikes aimed at the children, guided them through safe passages, and ensured their protection above all else. Serenia watched from a balcony, her expression a mixture of pride and concern. She had seen warriors fall, soldiers fight bravely, but Elias's courage was different. He was human, yet he moved with precision, determination, and unwavering focus on what mattered most. The children reached a secure room, their small bodies trembling but unharmed. They turned to Elias, eyes wide with awe and gratitude. He nodded at them, giving a silent promise to keep them safe. Then he turned back to face the intruders. The battle was swift and intense. Elias used his understanding of alien combat styles to anticipate moves, counterattacks, and neutralize threats without unnecessary harm. His training, instincts, and courage combined to create an almost seamless defense. One by one, the intruders were captured or driven back. His actions were efficient, measured, and protective of everyone in the household. When the last intruder was secured, the estate fell silent. Soldiers and guards began to patrol once more, checking the premises and confirming the safety of all residents. Elias stood at the center of the yard, his chest heaving, sweat mixing with dust and dirt. He had protected the children, Serenia, and the integrity of the household. Serenia descended to the yard, her gaze fixed on Elias. She approached him slowly, her steps deliberate. When she finally reached him, she studied his face, noting the exhaustion and the determination etched into every line. "You have proven yourself again," she said, "not only in courage but in loyalty and skill. You acted with wisdom and precision. You protected those who could not protect themselves, and in doing so, you have earned more than respect. You have earned the trust of my household and the acknowledgement of my court." Elias nodded quietly, feeling the weight of her words. He had acted instinctively, as he always had, but the recognition from Serenia carried a significance beyond measure. It was validation of his choices, his courage, and the principles that had guided him through countless battles. The children gathered around him once more, their small hands reaching for him in gratitude and affection. Lyra, the youngest, looked up with bright eyes and whispered words that Elias did not fully understand. Yet the meaning was clear. They were safe, and it was because of him. Serenia addressed her court and advisors. "This human soldier has shown qualities that we should all respect," she said. "His courage, his loyalty, and his protection of my children have proven that he is not merely a soldier. He is a symbol of honor. From this day forward, he shall remain under my household, serving as protector and companion." The court murmured in surprise, some in admiration, others in skepticism. Yet the truth was undeniable. Elias had faced danger that no one had expected him to survive. He had protected life over all else. And in doing so, he had forced even the most skeptical to recognize that humans could act with exceptional courage and integrity. Elias felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. He had crossed worlds, faced enemies, and risked his life. Now he stood at the center of a household where his actions mattered, where courage was recognized and where trust had been earned through deeds, not words. The children played nearby, their laughter returning to the halls, a sound that had been absent for far too long. Elias watched them, a sense of peace settling over him. He understood that the world was dangerous, that politics and rivalry still existed, and that challenges would continue to arise. But he also understood that courage, honor, and loyalty could bridge divides, even between humans and aliens who had once been enemies. Serenia joined him once more as the sun set. "Your presence has changed more than my household," she said. "You have shown that courage can cross species, that honor can defy expectation, and that trust can be earned even where it seems impossible. You are no longer merely a human soldier. You are part of my family, part of our household, and a symbol of something greater." Elias nodded. He had never sought recognition or status. He had acted out of instinct, duty, and a desire to protect. Yet the acknowledgement from Serenia, the trust of the children, and the respect of her court gave him a sense of purpose that he could not have imagined. The night passed quietly, and the estate settled into calm once more. Soldiers kept watch. Children slept safely, and Elias remained vigilant. He had learned much about courage, loyalty, and responsibility, and he knew that his journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more dangers, and more opportunities to protect those who could not defend themselves. But he also knew that he was no longer alone. He had allies, trust, and a place in a household that valued his courage and his choices. He had crossed the boundaries between worlds, between enemies, and between expectation and action. And in doing so, he had become something greater than a soldier. He had become a protector, a symbol and a bridge between humans and aliens who had once seen each other only as enemies. As the first light of morning illuminated the estate, Elias looked at the children, then at Lady Serenia, and finally at the horizon. He understood that his actions had consequences beyond what he could see. He understood that courage and loyalty could change the course of lives, families, and even the understanding between species. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him. He had protected the young of the enemy, faced danger without hesitation, and earned trust that no one could take away. And in that trust he found purpose, strength, and the knowledge that humans could indeed make a difference, even in the most unexpected places.